To a limited extent 3, Charlie is being controlled while an obscure civilian army official plans to put a hot iron stamp with the volunteer army and streak back to 2 days prior. Charlie and the pack notice a local army cart conveying a high school detainee. Later on, she sees a youngster lying oblivious in the street. At the point when Charlie waits to deal with assistance, the youngster bounces up and runs off. A few different children jump free and clear with bolts and quits. Their chief is 14-year-old Michael, who requests to know where they have taken his sibling Peter. He then requests one from the children to check, assuming Charlie and the gathering have consume marks. When Miles asks where the children's folks are, Michael says that they don't have any. He then, at that point, makes sense of that quite some time ago, the Guardians concealed the children in a cellar when men with consume marks came to kill their folks as a result of their battered American banner. Charlie understands that the men with consume marks are state army troopers, so she vows to get Peter back. Advising Michael to wait, Charlie and the gathering follow the tracks of the civilian army cart. From prior. In Philadelphia, Monroe and Tom are vexed that they can't see as a solitary pendant in spite of the fact that Rachel has given the addresses of her previous partners. They, notwithstanding, have a hold of a Dr. Bradley Jaffe, who has been in guardianship for quite some time. Understanding that Tom has been tormenting Bradley in order to find his pendant, Rachel needs to converse with him. Rachel then, at that point, streaks back to 3 years before the power outage, when she was pregnant with Danny. In Rachel's lab, which she imparts to Ben, Dr. Bradley Jaffe, and Beauty, Ben makes sense of an undertaking that they have been dealing with to colleague Safeguard Secretary Flynn from the branch of Guard, short for DOD. The task creates spotless, minimal expense power, yet has fizzled. Rather than creating power, Ben and the group have prevailed with regards to repressing power. In the interim, Rachel is unsettled that Ben has imparted the venture to Flynn. She is frightened that DOD will involve their finding as a weapon. In any case, since Ben needs to save the organization, he demands making an arrangement with Flynn. Somewhere else in the forest, Miles and the gathering keep on following the tracks. Out of nowhere, Miles hears a twig snap, and in practically no time, he hauls Michael out of the brambles. Michael needs to participate, as very much like Charlie, it is basically impossible that he wouldn't pursue his sibling. At the point when Charlie hesitatingly agrees to allow him to remain, Michael whistles, bringing 3 more vagrants alongside him. In the meantime, the cart containing Peter pulls up at a camp on a stream bank, or a boat is secured seaward. On the opposite side of the stream, when Miles and the posse stop for water, he distinguishes the boat as an induction office, otherwise called a warrior manufacturing plant. Kids are taken there and rebranded as troopers when they emerge. The gathering conceals in a beacon close by. In Philadelphia, Rachel sits in a jail and blazes back to 3 years before the power outage. At the point when she and Ben discover that her unborn child is feeling the loss of a vein that helps siphon blood to the lungs, it's dubious their child will make do. All at once, a detainee who ends up being Dr. Bradley Jaffe is hauled into a cell next entryway. Bradley can't really accept that Rachel is as yet alive. Rachel quickly gets some information about his pendant. Yet, the specialist is sufficiently fast to understand that she has been trusting data to Monroe, so he won't utter a word. In the following scene, Charlie needs to board the vessel and salvage Peter. Miles tells her that she needs to get an expert key to make her arrangement work. Soon thereafter at nightfall, Charlie sits alone by an open-air fire when Peter's capturers drive by in a civilian army cart. It's not some time before they take her out and arrest her. Back in Freedom Corridor, Philadelphia, Bradley is taken to Rachel's room. Rachel makes sense of that she just uncovered data about pendants to Monroe as he was compromising to torment her child. That is the point at which a watchman gets Jaffe's girl Eve, making Bradley shout with sickening dread. Monroe will torment Eve for getting out data from Bradley. Bradley quickly expects it's all Rachel's shortcoming, however she demands she didn't have the foggiest idea. In the interim, Charlie gets enlisted as a civilian army trooper and she and Peter stand with other new enlists before Lieutenant Slotnick, who invites them to the volunteer army. At the point when the spotters are taken to their decks, Charlie provokes an individual enroll, ensuring that Slotnick is watching her. Back on the vessel, Charlie goes to the hospital to fix up her injuries from the battle prior. Seeing the key ring holding tight the doctor's belt, she wrecks him. Not long before she can leave with the key ring, Slotnick gets her at the entryway. Since Charlie is 2 hours late, Miles is restless, so he and Nora head for the vessel, leaving Michael and different children with Aaron. Then, at that point, we return to the primary scene of the episode. Slotnick grins shrewdly as he stamps the M brand into Charlie's wrist. From that point forward, Charlie is secured in a cell, while Miles and Nora Blade battle their direction beneath decks, searching for Charlie. Back at the beacon, Aaron discovers that Michael is missing and hears strides on the floor above them. He and the children rush to stow away as the civilian army look through the structure. Abruptly, Aaron's pendant enacts, and the beacon recaptures its power. In no time, the Goliath light turns on. Back at the vessel, Miles and Nora rejoin with Charlie and figure out how to free Peter also. Be that as it may, as they are simply leaving, Slotnick appears, his blade to Michael's neck. Unexpectedly, the tanker is overwhelmed in the beacon's blinding light. Everybody is stunned to see the light and Miles utilizes this potential chance to assault and kill Slotnick. Also, free Michael and the new enlists. Back at the beacon, the pendant's light goes out, taking the beacon's power with it. In the interim, Rachel streaks back to when Flynn approaches her office building. He found out about Rachel's unborn child's concern, so he is set up for a spot in the now full fetoscopic preliminary at Columbia to allow her child a battling opportunity. Rachel realizes that Flynn needs something important as a trade-off for his liberal deal, however he wouldn't get out whatever it is right now. Back as of now, Aaron and the children rejoin with Miles and the gathering. The children are thrilled to see Peter back. In any case, Miles needs to be aware of the power that controlled the beacon. Aaron is reluctant from the outset, however in the long run makes sense about the pendant. Miles is irate that Aaron said nothing regarding it. All at once Charlie mediates, requesting to realize what occurred with the beacon. Aaron shows her the pendant and makes sense of that it was given to him by her dad. He was told to give it to a lady named Beauty, however he never viewed as her. In the accompanying scene, we see that Flynn has Elegance secured in a cell. At the point when she requests to be let free, Flynn reminds her the two of them realize that can't occur as it's excessively risky. Protected by the local army. The gathering is gone after as the volunteer army warriors begin firing automatic weapons at them. Fortunately, nobody gets hit. Miles understands that Sergeant Strasser is behind it. He lets the gathering know that Strasser is savage with regards to his foes. In the meantime, one of Strasser's men reports to him that they lost Miles and the gathering. Angrily, Strasser mercilessly kills the man. The state army then begins bringing out to Nora over a noisy mic, uncovering that they have caught her sister, Mia. A flashback to 2 months after the power outage shows Nora and Mia concealing under a bed as some thieves get through the house. Afterward, Nora tracks down her mom dead. As of now, Strasser keeps on undermining Nora and in the event that they hand over the power pendant. Furthermore, Miles, he will relinquish Mia. Miles would rather not hand over the pendant at all, so he attempts to obliterate it, however. The pendant doesn't have a scratch. At Monroe's base camp in Philadelphia, Tom discovers that Monroe requested his men to torment Nate. Tom then goes to Monroe and asks what his child did. He discovers that Nate attempted to keep an eye on Strasser as he cares deeply about Charlie and doesn't believe Strasser should kill her. Monroe lets him know that he will send Nate on a conciliatory mission to California through exceptionally hazardous domain. On the off chance that he doesn't go along, Monroe will execute Nate for conspiracy. Because of Nora's skill with explosives, Charlie and the group take out a portion of Strasser's men. During the blast, Mia runs off and reunites with her sister. In the wake of moving away from Strasser, Mia says she knows a man who can assist them with crossing a waterway with the goal that they can get to Philadelphia. Sometime later, Mia has a confidential meetup with her sister. She believes Nora should accompany her to Texas so that they can live with their dad there. Be that as it may, Nora needs to assist Charlie with getting Danny back from Philadelphia. Mia laughs at her. What's more, says doing a self-destruction mission is as well. Miles interferes with their discussion and desires the gathering to push ahead. At the point when they show up at a stream bank, they understand that Strasser has previously arrived and killed the one who planned to help them. In the meantime, Tom gains from his significant other Julia that the child of one of Monroe's top associates, Colonel Faber, has joined the Renegades, an obstruction bunch against the Monroe Republic. Julia believes that Tom should utilize this knowledge to persuade Monroe to save their child from the California trip. At the stream crossing, Charlie hears Mia persuading Nora to accompany her. She then, at that point, advises Nora to go with Mia to track down their dad. Nora chooses to leave, and before she leaves, she gives an energetic kiss to Miles. Back in Philadelphia, Tom reports about Colonel Faber. Monroe explored the charges against him and they were valid. He has Faber tormented in a cell and killed his obstruction child. Monroe then, at that point, chooses to drop Nate's risky excursion to California in return for Tom's trustworthiness. Mia and Nora are setting out toward Texas when out of nowhere, Strasser shows up. Incidentally, Mia has been working with him the entire time. She likewise took the pendant from Aaron and gave it to Strasser. In return for her approval, Strasser releases the two sisters. After Strasser and his men head out to find Miles and the others, Mia concedes that she had been functioning as an abundance tracker for Monroe. Living with their father as a family again was each of the a ploy to deceive Nora. Realizing this, Nora is raged and asks her to never follow her. She then runs off to return to Miles and the others. In the forest, Aaron at last understands that his pendant is no more. All at once, Strasser and his men show up and begin taking shots at them. Miles hesitantly gives up to Strasser. In the meantime, Nora creeps up from behind and kills one of Strasser's men. She then snags his weapon and starts shooting at the state army, killing a couple of men. Miles and Strasser get into a battle, yet when more civilian army troopers come in, Miles and the Gathering don't have a decision, however, to run. The Gathering ends up at the edge of a furious waterway and quickly hops into save themselves. Strasser returns to Philadelphia and hands over the pendant to Monroe. Monroe then goes to visit Rachel, who is dealing with a machine. He gives her the pendant and says that she presently has all that she really wants. In the following scene, we see Flynn and his hostage, Beauty. Flynn has discovered that Ben's pendant is currently in Philadelphia with Monroe. He tracks it through a Goliath electric guide, which is by all accounts following the areas of every one of the missing pendants. Right now, we discover that Flynn and Effortlessness are stayed in a monster power plant. Then, Miles is held hostage by the revolutionaries in view of his previous alliance with Monroe. The radical individuals Colonel Starkey and Sergeant Wheatley struggle with confiding in Miles. Miles needs to cooperate to stop the Monroe Republic, making sense of that Monroe has his nephew Danny as a hostage. In the wake of persuading them he's fairly dependable, Miles and the others work to unite with the renegade armed force to break into Monroe's sanctuary in Philadelphia. Miles knows a mysterious way, which is through a train burrow, loaded up with booby traps. The next day, the Consolidated Gathering strolls through the passage, however they are having a difficult time at the point when Charlie ventures into a field of landmines. In the interim, Rachel is dealing with a machine to enhance the force of the pendant. Tom interferes with her and acquaints her with Chief Burke. He needs to know how the machine functions. Rachel makes sense of that every pendant gets each gadget for power-up inside a scope of 9-2. This implies controlling up vehicles and rockets to kill large number of individuals. Back at the passage, Nora fortunately deals with the mine, however winds up detonating there. Passage point of the passage. After securely passing the risk, the Gathering continues on. En route, Miles spots somebody, however when he creeps up to actually look at in the corner, there is no one. Before long, Nora thinks she is gone after by a crocodile that likewise doesn't exist. Aaron understands that the blockage of the passage point has fixed off the oxygen and Miles. What's more, Nora are really fantasizing. The Gathering shows up at the exit, just to find that the local army had fixed it some time back. Crushed, they search for another exit. Subsequent to strolling for some time, Wheatley tracks down an exit. In any case, seconds some other time when he opens the entryway, he starts shooting and kills the two of the agitators. Charlie, Aaron, and Nora figure out how to avoid the fire yet get caught in the passage. It turns out Wheatley is a covert local army specialist and takes Miles hostage to bring him back to Monroe. Through their consolidated endeavors, Charlie and the group get away from the snare and follow Wheatley. Also, Miles. Wheatley spots Charlie and shoots her in the arms, yet not before she places a bolt in his chest. In view of her injuries, Charlie falls oblivious. Miles attempts frantically to wake his niece. Sometime later, Charlie recovers cognizance. When she is back on her seat, the Gathering pushes ahead and before long arrives at an entryway. At Philadelphia, Monroe needs to affirm the speaker machine Rachel is working since he has no faith in her. He gets her old partner, Dr. Bradley Jaffe, to evaluate the speaker, which is uncovered to be a bomb. Deceived, Monroe undermines he will kill Danny and discard her as he needn't bother with her any longer. She can be supplanted by Bradley. At the point when Monroe arranges his men to take Rachel, she promptly gets a screwdriver and cuts Bradley, killing him. This act guarantees that she and Danny will get an opportunity at Endurance since Monroe will require her to fabricate the intensifier.